Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, we got some pretty solid show today. I feel like I say that every day, but I don't know, it works, it flows well, so I'm going to keep doing it. Alright, gonna open up, not with the Cowboys or the Jets like I usually do. But with the Patriots. So Drake May actually got in a sort of quality start yesterday in yesterday's preseason game against the Panthers. Like I said, I was concerned about the first week because he only got 3 passes compared to Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton got more reps than he did. But last night he got a pretty solid game, and he actually looked pretty decent. You can only tell so much from a preseason game. But it just pretty much I continued to see what I expected to see from these young quarterbacks. Caleb Williams showed a lot of athleticism. Bo Nix was very accurate. And Drake May, he's got the talents there, but he's a little inefficient. And to be completely fair with him, he's in the worst position, I think, out of all the first-round draft picks at quarterback. Because even Caleb Williams, the Bears have weapons right now. DJ Moore, they signed Keenan Allen. They upgraded that O-line. They're on the way up. They're trending up. Patriots got no one. So Drake May is really in the worst position out of any quarterback right now. He looked good yesterday. I think as good as he could have with that receiving core, but yeah, I mean, it's tough to say what we're going to see from him. I don't even know. I have no idea if the Patriots are going to start him or not because I have no idea what they're going to do. I think they're the worst run offense in the league right now, by far. And I think next year they're getting the first or second pick at best. That's probably their ceiling next year. That's how bad I think this roster is. They're looking at maybe the 3rd overall pick at best, or 2nd. So, I mean, maybe we'll see some good things from Drake May, but you can only hope. I mean, even with Jaden Daniels, I don't think Washington's going to do very well this year, but I do have hope that Jaden Daniels is going to look good. He's going to show us some flashes similar to Lamar. Obviously, Lamar was in a better position his rookie year, but I think stats-wise, Jaden Daniels is going to be comparable to Lamar in the first year. Pretty crappy completion percentage, but, we're going to see the talent there. Drake May, I have no idea. All right. Let's move on to the team they made a deal with a few days ago, the Falcons. They made another big signing with Justin Simmons. Which is, the Falcons, I think I can make an argument, had the best free agency after this signing. Just in the sense that they proved a lot of people wrong. Even me, I was skeptical when they drafted Michael Penix after having signed Kirk Cousins. But, they proved that they really made me realize that you can't really get a good quarterback on the market, especially not right now. Kirk Cousins was probably the best they were going to get, and then when Kirk Cousins is gone, it's going to be tough to find another guy. So when you have a guy like Michael Penix, who is very talented, has a high ceiling in my opinion, you go for him, and. Not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is living proof that you don't need Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers to be the guy that your rookie sits behind. You can have a guy like Alex Smith, who's a respectable quarterback, but not incredible, like Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. But, a respectable guy who knows what he's doing. He knows the game inside and out. He just doesn't have the same talent or success as the other guys. And then they pretty much they just proved, because everyone thought they would get an edge rusher or some defense in the draft. But, like, defense, like, safety and edge rushers are a lot easier to sign than quarterbacks are. So I'm kind of now they kind of opened my eyes in that sense, where I'm now seeing the way they went about free agency this year is perfect, and this just cements my, I guess, take that they're going to be first in that division. I don't think they can beat any of the teams that I have ahead of them, but they're winning that division. And honestly, they could, based on their weaker schedule, they could get the 3 seed instead of the 4. But it's tough to say because they're in the worst division of football. I mean, they're probably looking at going 5-1 in that division, with one loss being to the Bucs. At a minimum, 4-2 if they get swept by the Bucs. They should beat the Saints and Panthers in both games. They should sweep both those teams. I think they can have a pretty solid year. The problem is once they get to the playoffs, as a division winner and a 3 or 4 seed, they're probably looking at playing the Packers or Rams, who are better than them right now. So, it's going to be tough for them to get any further in the first round. But I think things are looking up for them, 100%. I think Michael Penix is very promising, but only time will tell with that. For now, Kirk Cousins is a great guy to have for these next few years. And I like Drake London. I like their roster, honestly. Their roster's looking better and better every day. It's just the big question right now is the coach and the O-line. That's the biggest question at the moment for the Falcons. But we're going to figure out most of that in the next 2 years. It doesn't take as long as most people think to figure out if a coach is good or not. We knew Sean McVay was good immediately, Kyle Shanahan immediately. Matt LaFleur made an immediate impact on the Packers. All these younger coaches, we saw their impact pretty early. So with the Falcons' new, and even the Patriots' new coach, Jared Mayo, we're going to see in the first 2 years whether or not he works. All right, let's shift to basketball. So the NBA made their schedule. The Lakers and Warriors have the most nationally televised games next season. Why does that stick out to me? Because it's LeBron and Steph. Just further proof of my take the other day that as much as fans may want LeBron and Steph's reign to be over, it isn't. We saw it in the Olympics. We're seeing it now with the new NBA schedule. They're still at the top. They outplayed Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis. They were better players in the Olympics this year at their age than Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, all those young superstars. And now, ratings-wise, they're carrying the NBA. I mean, I have been clear that the top 3 in the league are Jokic, Luka, and Giannis. But, Steph and LeBron, they draw in the most viewers, clearly. And that's a great thing for them, kind of a bad thing for the NBA, because those two are going to be gone soon. And if you don't start promoting your younger players, you're going to have you're going to be at the bottom of the list for, significant professional sports. Because even the NFL, they had Tom Brady. They were still, back in 2018, they were promoting, Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes. when they were in the MVP race. Then Lamar Jackson the next year. They were promoting these younger athletes even before Tom Brady was even hinting at retirement. So like the NBA, I think they just haven't done a great job in years past of promoting their younger athletes. Like, I feel if you were to ask people where Anthony Edwards went to college, they wouldn't know. I know, because I'm a dork, but I know he went to Georgia, but I think if you ask most people, they wouldn't know that Anthony Edwards went there. And I know it's not a big basketball school, but when you get a player as talented as Anthony Edwards, you should be promoting him. As great as LeBron and Steph are, you got this guy who's going to be at the top of the league in the next 3 or 4 years, whereas LeBron and Steph are probably going to be out of the league in 3 or 4 years. And if they're not out of the league, they're going to be regressing. So, I think the NBA just hasn't done a great job. At least not as good a job as the NFL has at promoting their up-and-coming superstars. All right, so Darius Slay called out Jerry Jones on his podcast, pretty much just taking a shot at him for not taking care of players' contracts. And I'm going to actually kind of empathize with Jerry here. Sort of. Don't get too excited. He is in a really crappy spot, but he also put himself in that crappy spot. As I've said, by paying Dak, he dug himself a massive hole. By overpaying Dak a few years ago. Because now, Dak is better than he was a few years ago, so he's going to be looking for more money. And the only other option is letting him walk, which would be worse. Because there aren't any quarterbacks on the market right now that are better than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is a top 12 quarterback in the league. No one in the top 10 is going anywhere anytime soon. Burrow's staying with the Bengals. Herbert's going to be with the Chargers. Lamar's with the Ravens. Mahomes is going to be with the Chiefs. Then you got the other guys CJ Stroud. Aaron Rodgers are getting up there in age, but I would still have him in the top 10. Jared Goff. Those guys, they're going to stay on their respective teams for a while. So there is no upgrading at quarterback by getting rid of Dak, by letting Dak Prescott walk. So the first thing you got to do is pay Dak. The problem is, you now have to pay him $60 million. And then you have to pay CeeDee Lamb, because without CeeDee Lamb, Dak is much worse. Dak has a 120 career passer rating when throwing to CeeDee Lamb. Every other receiver, he has an 89 passer rating. And as I said, for those of you that didn't hear this on my last few podcasts, that is the difference between Aaron Rodgers in his prime was putting up 120 passer rating. Last year, Daniel Jones had an 88 passer rating. So the difference between Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and without him is the difference between prime Aaron Rodgers and current Daniel Jones. So part of me does feel bad for Jerry Jones, but it's also, you dug yourself a hole, so you gotta find your way out of it. And I think the best move you can make is starting with paying Dak a ridiculous amount of money that he doesn't deserve, but gotta do it so that you're not stuck with Cooper Rush. Then paying CeeDee Lamb, and then figuring out what the hell to do with Micah Parsons. Alright. So Russell Wilson is making his debut, preseason debut, against the Bills tomorrow night, and his journey has gotten really odd, I feel in the NFL, because he was at some point thought to be one of the biggest draft steals in NFL history. As a third round pick, every draft steal kind of gets overshadowed by the fact that Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. But Russell Wilson, he was a 3rd-round pick. And for years, he was top 7 in the league at the quarterback position. But that wasn't always the popular opinion. You know, he went from being the 3rd-round pick that no one really looked at to winning a Super Bowl, but then when he won that Super Bowl, the defense, the Legion of Boom was more credited than he was for that Super Bowl. Rightfully so. But then Russell Wilson continued to prove himself as a top-selling quarterback in the league. Then he went to Denver and crashed and burned there. And now he's with Pittsburgh, and they shipped him off for very little. Denver got nothing in return for Russell Wilson. So, I mean, I would say he has something to prove right now. But I think he is one of the more... I'm actually going to give you my most interesting storylines heading into the season after the next segment. But that is one... It's an honorable mention for that. Just I'm really interested to see what Russell Wilson does, because, you know, there is the other thought I'm having where mobile quarterbacks do tend to age out quickly. He was very mobile in his prime. You know, it's possible he just aged quicker and now he's kind of done. You know, it's definitely a thought I'm having, but with that, I'm moving to an interesting report I saw from Anthony Slater of The Athletic, reporting that Steph Curry will not decide on an extension until closer to the October deadline. I think it's October 21st, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's interesting. Steph has been there for really long. I don't see him leaving, I will say that, because there's certain players... There's certain players you just don't see leaving a team, like Tim Duncan with the Spurs, Kobe with the Lakers, Dirk with the Mavericks. And by the way, Dirk didn't have nearly the same success that Steph has had here. You know, I mean, Kobe and Tim Duncan had comparable. Tim Duncan probably had more success with the Spurs than Curry has had with the Warriors, but what I'm saying is Dirk... I think when the fit is right, it doesn't really matter how much success you have in the last few years. You just stay there because it's really a home for you. And you might say, oh, Tom Brady left the Patriots. Yeah, he never had an excellent relationship with Bill Belichick. Steve Kerr and Steph Curry have been close for years. It's not the same as Brady's situation. And then, yeah, Jordan joined the Wizards when he came out of retirement, but he also hated Jerry Krause when he retired. So he wasn't going to go back to Chicago. You know, so Curry, he's not in the same spot as those two were. You know, I just don't see him leaving. I think too much success with the team, too good a relationship with the coach and GM. So that's my guess, but if he's okay, because the Warriors, they're not going to be anything more than a play-in team this year. Like, that's their ceiling is being a play-in team right now. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. So Steph Curry's okay with that. I don't see him leaving, but I'm not in his head. I have no idea. All right. So I'm going to give you guys my 5 most interesting storylines ahead of the 2024 NFL season. I just told you my honorable mention is Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. I just want to see if he brings his career back. I think things are looking up because, you know, I mean, Justin Fields didn't really look good in that first preseason game, which kind of buys Wilson some time. But yeah, I mean, I think Wilson will be the starter, and I think he's going to have a big chance to prove himself. The bigger problem, though, is Mike Tomlin is an excellent coach, but he's much better. He's a very much defensive-minded head coach. he's not big on the offense. And Russell Wilson on the Steelers won't have a big supply of weapons. He'll have George Pickens, who is pretty solid. But, I don't know. I'm interested to see if he can bounce back at all. So that's my honorable mention. Number 5 is Jim Harbaugh's first year in LA. I think they're going to make the playoffs as a wild card team. But because I think Jim Harbaugh is the best coach for Justin Herbert. It feels like the right fit. Harbaugh in LA feels like the right fit. I don't know why, but it's my gut feeling. And I think Herbert's had a lot of bad coaches in his career. So I think now that Harbaugh is there, he's an offensive-minded head coach. I think he'll turn it around. I really do. This year, I don't see them going any further than the first round, but I can see them being a legitimate threat in a few years. And I have been wrong about these things in the past. I did think Urban Meyer would be a good head coach for the Jaguars, and that didn't work out. But I'm feeling good about Harbaugh in LA, and that's something I'm going to be paying attention to throughout the season. Number 4 is going to be if the Chiefs can be the first team to ever three-peat. It is crazy to think the Patriots never did that. The reason it feels like they did, I'll tell you, is because they made 3 straight Super Bowls, and they won 2 of those 3, but they lost one to Nick Foles and the Eagles. So we have Nick Foles to thank for the Patriots not three-peating. But I'm interested to see if they can do it. I would say they don't seem to have a lot of weapons, but it didn't matter last year. It probably won't matter this year. They'll win their division again. They're probably going to be a top 2 team in the AFC. So we'll see if they can do it. I personally have the Niners and Bengals in the Super Bowl right now, but who knows? If the Chiefs can three-peat, that would be, I don't know. I can't tell if I would hate that or love it. It's tough to tell right now, but I'll know closer to the end of the season. Number 3, how the Cowboys handle their contract issues in general. I'm still looking forward to see how they balance Parsons, who's their best defender, CeeDee Lamb, a receiver that their offense really isn't going to be great without, and Dak Prescott, who they need him right now. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how they handle that. And the crazy thing is, with all this happening in Dallas, I still think they're going to be a wild card team. Why do I think that? Because this is really a repeat of the last 5 years in Dallas. So why do I have them as my number 3 story? Because I want to see if Jerry Jones changes anything after 3 years of crashing and burning in the playoffs. I want to see if he's willing to adjust it. I think it's interesting. Number 2 is Caleb Williams in his first year on the Bears. Like I said, I think the Bears are a 4. They're going to finish 4th in the division. Right? I think that's a fair assessment. Although, the Vikings, if Sam Darnold isn't great, it's possible they fall back there, but I don't see that happening. But I think, even though I have them finishing 4th, I think Caleb Williams is going to look good. And I think we're going to see flashes of the Bears turning it around. And then number 1, as I have stated in my past podcast, my most intriguing storyline of 2024 is Rodgers and the Jets. Because I know damn well Rodgers does not want his legacy to be a great player who couldn't win Super Bowls. And yeah, he did win 1, but I think he's trying not to be Brett Favre. But on the other hand, it looks like he really is. their career paths are scary similar. Like, from the Packers to Jets. And also the timing of it. 3 years after the Packers drafted their successor, they leave. So it's like, I think Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be Brett Favre, but the evidence points to the contrary. But yeah, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers are my most interesting storyline, just because it really all rides on a 40-year-old's Achilles. So, it's that's going to keep me interested all year. Speaking of the Jets, Garrett Wilson had some high praise for Rodgers, saying playing with him feels like pure football. And, honestly, I am excited to see the Rodgers and Wilson duo, because Rodgers he's managed to find a special connection with at least one receiver in all the offenses he's been on. He had Greg Jennings 1 year, Jordy Nelson for a while, even Randall Cobb at a certain point was his number one guy. That into Devontae Adams. Then when Adams left, it was kind of anyone who wanted to catch the ball. Anyone Rodgers trusted, really. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do with Garrett Wilson. It is crazy to think, though. I was reading... So, about a month ago, there was voting held by executives, coaches, and scouts. They ranked the top 10 receivers in the league. I only talked about the quarterback list they made. They ranked receivers too. Garrett Wilson was not in the top 10, which I initially thought was crazy until I saw the guys ahead of him. Personally, I think he is in that 10 to 11 range after reading the article. So I'll just read you the list. They had Jefferson at 1. Hang on. I think it was Jefferson at 1. Tyreek Hill at 2. Was it Jamar Chase at 3, CeeDee Lamb at 4, Adams 5. So that, I think, is the definitive top 5. And then there's a bit of a gap. Then I was looking at it, 6 through 15. The gap is really small between 6 and 15. It's a matter of inches, whereas the gap between 5 and 6 is much bigger. So 6 is A.J. Brown, 7 Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 Mike Evans, 9 Stephon Diggs, 10 Brandon Ayuk. And then they gave 8 receivers. I think I would put Garrett Wilson in the same league as Brandon Ayuk, that 10 to 12 range. But then the 8 receivers put as honorable mentions: Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. These are all guys that are really close together. DJ Moore as well. So it is interesting. Like, you would think Garrett Wilson should be in the top 10, but the gap between 6 and 15 is really close. Speaking of receivers, Mahomes talked about how the Chiefs have to keep pushing young receivers, to help replace Hollywood Brown after his injury. And like I said, I honestly think the Chiefs are a kind of team that don't really need a great receiver. I hate to compare teams to the Patriots, but this is kind of similar, where the Patriots never seem to have a legitimate number one guy, and yet they always found someone that worked, whether it was Edelman, Gronk, Chris Hogan 1 year, Danny Amendola 1 year. It's all... they had Randy Moss, 2007. That was the one big... okay, he's the number one guy. But... yeah, even without Tyreek Hill, last year they won the Super Bowl. They have some solid receivers. Like, Xavier Worthy looks good. Rashee Rice is pretty good as well. But there's not a definitive guy that's okay. There's not a Devontae Adams or Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill on that team, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they figure that out. Alright, Daniel Jones will be playing in his first game since tearing his ACL. The Giants, I don't know. I think maybe third in the division this year. Maybe ahead of Washington. But they're just, I don't know. The only thing I like about them is their front seven. Their defense looks good. That's it. That's not going to be enough to propel them any further than being third in the division and missing the playoffs. I still don't like Daniel Jones. I don't think I ever will. I think they've been far too loyal to him. I think their offense is poorly run. And unfortunately, I think Brian Daboll is going to be used as a scapegoat, even though this is all on Daniel Jones, the way I see it. I think Brian Daboll is a great offensive mind. And they made the playoffs 2 years ago because Daniel Jones only threw 15 touchdowns. Daboll took the ball out of Daniel Jones' hands to make the offense better. It's not a good sign. All right, we're going to end this podcast with one more segment talking about another man who hasn't been paid yet, Trent Williams. Kyle Shanahan is optimistic that the Niners will work things out with him. He's still under contract, so really I don't think he's going he's really not going anywhere. But you definitely don't want your star O-lineman holding out, especially Brock Purdy. I think he's like 19-3 with Trent Williams in the lineup, and 1-2 without him. The good news is Trent Williams, when he's there, he doesn't really miss games. But Brock Purdy statistically is way better with Trent Williams, and he takes a pretty significant drop when Williams is not there. So I think, like I said, Williams is more valuable than Brandon Ayuk is to the team. I think they can still win a Super Bowl without Brandon Ayuk. I don't think they can without Trent Williams. I think that opens up possibilities to Christian McCaffrey getting injured, Brock Purdy getting hit more than he's used to, and overall a regression in the Niners season. So really, I think they should be focusing on this a lot more than Brandon Ayuk right now. But that's all on them. We'll see how they do. And like I said, I trust John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan to make the right call, because they've completely turned that organization around. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. All right. But that is it for today. I have 2 more full weeks, like I said, to record podcasts before I go to school again, where I probably won't be recording a lot of podcasts, but I will when I can. But yeah, this was Dylan Miller on Daily Dose Dylan. Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This was Dylan Miller on Daily Dose Dylan. Have a good day. I'll see you Monday.